Who's king in the Big 12 after the first couple weeks of the college football season? Anthony Totri, Eric Ruby here with PHNX Sun Devils for our first Big 12 power rankings of the season. And let's not waste any time. Rubus, what do you have after a very interesting first week 0 and week 1 in the conference?
To me, it's a clear-cut number one. You got to talk about UCF. Okay, UCF at the top of this conference. No, I'll take you down 1 through 16, starting at the top with Iowa State, starting the season 2-0. Big victory over Kansas State in week 0, and then, of course, a massive, massive victory over one of the Dakotas, whichever one didn't give Kansas State problems.
One of the Dakotas.
One of the Dakotas, Iowa State, coming in at number 1. Coming in at 2, it's TCU. TCU with a massive blowout victory over Bill Belichick and UNC in week 1, also known as UNC instead of just UNC. They looked really, really good, really crisp, really sharp. They are the designated program to take on the Media Circus's first game. They took on Dion, his first game at Colorado back when they were in the Pac-12. And then he took on UNC at UNC. Coming in at 3, I have Utah. I think all 3 at the top could have an argument for number 1 and vice versa. Iowa State just has 2 wins so far this season. Utah with a very convincing win. Devin Dampier looking like one of the best quarterbacks in this conference. Granted, against UCLA, which there's a lot of mixed feelings about how good they will particularly be this year.
Not very. That's the consensus.
Very much. That being said, Utah still took care of business. Utah still dominated. They're going to come in at number 3. At number 4, I still have Arizona State University, right? Coming into the season, they would be at number 1. This is a 3-spot drop. I think that's fair given how rough they did play against NAU, but you and I have talked about it now that things have calmed down a little bit post multiple touchdown win over NAU. I think a lot of the concerns are overblown. I think people who have ASU down to the halfway point of this conference a little overreacting.
Have lost their mind.
It's still 1-0. Okay. Then at 5, I have Kansas. Kansas off to a great start, beating Fresno State and then beating Wagner, the Seahawks. Woo! Obviously, 2 wins they should have picked up, but they did, looking good after the end of last season. They ended on a hot streak as well. At 6, I have Texas Tech, also a blowout win over Arkansas Pine Bluff. Enough said there. BYU at 7, blowout win over Portland State. Congratulations, you were supposed to. At 8, I do have Baylor. Baylor started off really high for me, so that's going to be a decent drop.
You have them at 8.
At 8.
Gotcha.
They did get beat by Auburn, so not a great start for them, but the level of competition that they played was high, and they started off in the top 3, I believe, for me when it comes to where I would have them initially. So that's about a 5-spot drop for Baylor. Arizona shooting up the rankings, probably the biggest jump out of anybody going into the season. Arizona obviously beating up on Hawaii in week 1. Kansas State drops down to 10 after a loss to Iowa State and then
looked real ugly against the other Dakota.
It was really close, but for the sake of the Johnson family, they pulled through. 11, I have Houston. 12, I have Colorado. 13, West Virginia. 14, Cincinnati. 15, Oklahoma State. And 16, UCF.
We have a lot of similarities, also some pretty big differences.
I'm excited to hear what the big difference is
into my power rankings. Nothing too wild out there off the top. We both have Iowa State at number 1. Looked really clean, really good, especially offensively with Brock Obecht in that week 0 game against Kansas State. Then you go to week 2, they take care of business against one of the Dakotas. At number 2, I do have Utah. Really loved what I saw from Devin Dampier and this Utes team as a whole against UCLA on Saturday night. We've been saying it pretty much all offseason. You add Devin Dampier. Yes, it was a down year for Kyle Whittingham in 2024, but the expectation is he and Utah are in the thick of this Big 12 competition again in 2025. Appears to be that way. At number 3, I do have Arizona State taking a couple step drop after a less than convincing win, or satisfying win, I should say, against NAU, but they still managed to put up 38 points. Despite, again, watching that game, it didn't necessarily feel like they put up that many points. Overall, I think Arizona State is going to be just fine. At number 4, I do have Texas Tech. When you score 60 some odd points and the opposition scores 7, tough to deny you a top 5 spot. I don't care who you play in that one. Really interested to see how Baron Morton and the rest of that Texas Tech offense continue to come together in this 2025 season. At number 5, I do have the Horned Frogs. They did beat up on Uncle Billy. And this is just a team that we've been saying, again, kind of as the offseason has moved along, that this is a team in TCU that is a sneaky wild card in this conference. Josh Hoover looks like he is back in midseason form from a year ago. Definitely watch out for the Horned Frogs in the thick of this Big 12 competition. At 6, I do have BYU. Interested to see how Bear, their young quarterback, continues to evolve as a player for the Cougs as the season continues to move on. With that said, a very convincing win. I believe it was 69-0
against Portland State.
Really rough start to the year for Portland State. They lost 69-0 against BYU, and then the week before, pretty sure they got shut out like 40-something to nothing by Tarleton State.
I mean, pretty tough for their college football playoffs chances.
Yeah, I mean, nobody's had a worse start to the year than Portland State. It's been tough, man. At number 7, I do have Kansas. Again, a team that picked up 2 cake wins. Really interested to see what they do in week 3, and especially when conference play gets to rolling around. Is Jalen Daniels the guy that everybody thought he was going to be last year? Or is he the Jalen Daniels that the fan base got at the start of that 2024 season? I do also have Baylor at number 8, a team that did certainly drop after a tough double-digit loss to Auburn. I would say probably the toughest week 1 opponent that anybody had in this conference, removing the week 0 game when Kansas State and Iowa State played. Auburn should be a top 25 team at some point this year. Sawyer Robertson just couldn't do enough ultimately to get this Baylor team over the hump in that one. I do have the Arizona Wildcats at number 9, a big jump. I know it was only Hawaii, but they looked good from start to finish in that one. The Brent Brennan special is due. Get ready for 6-6 or 7-5. He burnt it in year 1. It's probably not going to be the case in year 2.
Cooked to perfection.
Cooked to perfection. Yeah, 7-5. West Virginia at number 10. I do have Colorado at number 11. I feel like they played maybe the second toughest team in Georgia Tech, another team that I think probably should be in that top 25. Ultimately, the quarterback situation continues to be a little bit of a head scratcher for me. Interested to see if we see Juju Lewis at all for the Buffs here in week 2. Kansas State at 12. Like you said, for the sake of the Johnson family, we won't talk too much about the state of the Kansas State Wildcats, but ultimately this is a team that really needs to turn this ship around if they have any hope of being competitive in this conference in 2025. Oklahoma State at 13, Houston at 14, Cincinnati at 15, and then the worst team, by my estimation, in the Power 4, the UCF Knights.
Yeah, at least we're all united on that. The UCF is the worst team in this conference.
When you beat Jacksonville State by 7 to open the year, it's...
was it 7 or was it 3?
I think it was 17-10 was the final.
Okay.
But that was a gross game from start to finish.
So what was our biggest difference? You said we had one big difference. What was that? I think you had Texas Tech higher than I did.
I had Texas Tech higher than you do. I have Arizona State higher than you
do.
By one. I think a couple of them are by 1. Where did you have Utah?
Utah, I had Utah at 3.
At 3. Okay, so maybe not as many differences.
I think we're pretty damn close on most of them. I think maybe our biggest difference was Texas Tech, and I think I had TCU.
Texas Tech,
a couple
or
spots
Kansas
higher.
State too. I have Kansas State at 12. I think you had them at like 10 or 9 or something.
I think I had them at 10.
Yeah.
I could just pull it up here and I can just tell you when I had them.
Yeah, you could do that.
Yeah, I had them at 10. So I had Iowa State 1. You had Iowa State 1. I had TCU 2. You had TCU 5. So that's probably our biggest meaningful difference. I had Utah at 3. You had Utah at 2.
I had Utah at 2.
I had ASU at 4. You had ASU at 3. I had Kansas at 5. You had Kansas at
7.
So that's still close. I had Texas Tech at 6. You had Texas Tech at 4. I had BYU at 7.
I had BYU at 6.
I had Baylor at 8.
Baylor at 8.
Arizona at 9.
Arizona at 9.
Kansas State at 10.
West Virginia at 10.
Houston at 11.
Colorado at 11.
Colorado at 12.
Kansas State at 12. We're one behind and one ahead.
Yeah, we're good. We're pretty close.
We're good,
after
man. We're good.
1.5 weeks, 2 weeks for most teams. Who do you think has the biggest chance to jump in week 2?
I would say Baylor. Baylor, especially after a rough week 1 game against Auburn, they're really the only team with a serious opponent on the opposition this week. They're on the road against number 17 SMU. So That's going to be a tough one. The Mustangs look decent in their season opener, so that's certainly a team for me that probably has the biggest chance to rise. I mean, in theory, you could also say Oklahoma State. They've got number 6 Oregon.
Good luck.
That's going to be a tough
Gundy.
one. Kansas has Missouri this week. Like there's some sneaky good games. I think
Kansas and Missouri is probably behind SMU. Kansas, Missouri is one of the more crucial games to watch in the Big 12 this weekend.
Yeah,
because
is Kansas for real? That's what we're going to learn.
And I'm pretty sure that's at Missouri as well. That goes from, okay, you play Fresno State, you beat Fresno State convincingly. That's good, right? Then you beat Wagner convincingly. That's less good, right? That's what you're supposed to do. Missouri is going to be one of those teams where on the road, if Kansas goes in and wins convincingly, you're going to be talking about somebody who should probably be ranked top 3 in this conference after 3 games. And if you're Kansas, that's what you were supposed to be last year, right? So that is really interesting, especially considering how they ended last season and the hot streak of beating 3 ranked teams in a row, which did eventually help propel Arizona State to the Big 12 championship. Obviously, ASU, we both still have them in the top 4. I don't know how much higher they can go, but would you say if they convincingly rout Mississippi State that there is room for ASU to move back to the 2 or to the 1 spot? Or do we feel like
I would say there's
just
definitely
because it's Mississippi State, is there not that much room?
No,
for
I think there's definitely room for ASU to propel themselves back to that number 1 spot, despite who the opposition is. I think this is going to tell us a lot about the Sun Devils. Again, you have Jordan Tyson, you have Sam Levitt, but realistically, if this team can get out of its own way, what does it look like on the road, SEC country? We've never seen Kenny Dillingham in Arizona State in SEC country, not on the road. They obviously played Texas in the college football playoff at a neutral site, right? You weren't necessarily on the road in that game. The Iowa State game, you were the home favorite, right, in that one. So this is your first look at what ASU is going to look like on the road against an SEC level opponent. So I think if they're able to take care of business, they are certainly a team that can rise up in the power rankings. But that's just our 2 cents. Who do you think has the best chance to rise in the Big 12 heading into week 2? Let us know in the comments. Make sure you hit that like button, you hit the subscribe button, and we'll see you next time.